It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, term limits. I thought a lot about term limits over the weekend. Oh yeah, my opinion hasn't changed. Yeah, but I thought a lot about the politicians who are coming out saying that it's a bad idea. And whether it's said forcefully or whether it's said in a nice way, again, you can make a reasoned argument why 16 years is fine and 10 years is terrible. You can make a reasoned argument, okay? And I've said this, and I disagree with the 16 years. You give me an option to have it a decade, I'm going to pick the decade, which is what's on the ballot this November. But I think what's so frustrating from my point of view on the term limits and the pushback that there is out there, aside from the fact of the optics of, well, whoa, big surprise. You know, it's easy. It would be easy for me to say on a daily basis, big surprise, politicians in power don't want term limits. It'd be easy. That's the low-hanging fruit angle of this argument. It really is. What I think is the higher fruit on the tree is that we got where we are today because of convicted felon Senator John Woods. And that was a deception on the people of the state. It was intentional. We were lied to. The people who John Woods was supposed to serve and the Arkansas General Assembly was supposed to serve. And don't get me wrong, there were people who were against what John Woods did. There were politicians who voted and spoke against it, maybe not so much after it was on the ballot. Maybe they kind of stayed silent, but they certainly voted against it. But the common thread to me here is the people, because now we're told that the people are not smart enough to know what is an appropriate amount of service in the General Assembly. Obviously, we have term limits for the President of the United States for a reason. Congress resists, and it will always resist, getting term limits, although I think term limits would be a good thing for a lot of reasons. The Arkansas General Assembly is now resisting the term limits amendment that's on the ballot for all of us to vote on. 16. You want them to serve for 16 years or you want them to serve for a decade? I mean, which one is it, 10 years or 16 years? If I have the option, I'm going to say 10 years. Now, this is what's so frustrating to me. How did we get here? This is what you need to know. We got to this particular point because the people of Arkansas were deceived. And then the people decided to act and sign the petitions and put a shorter term limit option for people to vote on. And I think a lot of people know this is going to pass because people are in favor of term limits. But the common thread here is the people. The people were deceived, and now we're told the people don't know enough to correct the deception. And I think that's just where the rub kind of lies. And I don't like the us versus them. I know the politicians don't like the us versus them. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of good people on both sides of the issue. But it's the optics here of the people being deceived and trying to correct the deception, trying to wash away the stain of convicted felon Senator John Woods and what the Arkansas General Assembly did to the people. I mean, it's not just John Woods. The Arkansas General Assembly did this to the people. They actively deceived you. Some remained noticeably silent when it came time to get the public aware of what was going on. Not all, but some. And so this shouldn't be a surprise. I guess that's what I am kind of struggling with, is why would anybody in public office that knows what happened with John Woods and his deception to get us to extend term limits and expand term limits, why would anyone be surprised it got to this point where the pendulum is swinging back, not just to where it was, which was, I think, 12 years, but is swinging back even further to 10 years? Why would we be surprised when the people were actively lied to by their own government? The government of the state of Arkansas, the General Assembly, the people's representatives in the House and the Senate, actively lied to you in 2014 and passed Issue 3, which extended their term limits and increased their salaries, and they called it an ethics amendment, and they concealed it all from you in the title. That's what this is about. That's the issue at hand here. Not whether or not you don't understand the bureaucracy. No, the people of Arkansas were lied to. And whether right or wrong, the term limits on the ballot is a reaction to that. No one should be surprised it's on the ballot. No one should be surprised. Again, you can make reasoned arguments for both. But when your own government steps up and lies to your face, and when the guy, the author of that amendment, is now a convicted felon for enriching himself in countless other ways, not just making sure his salary goes up for serving, not just making sure he can continue to stay down at the Marble Palace longer, carving out his own little illegal financial niche, but he's done all these other things. Yeah, I think this is expected, and to fight this is that's where it can kind of just get a little strange, maybe even a little offensive, that the people just don't know 10 years is, you don't know 10 years is not long enough. Yeah. You know what? Maybe you're right. I don't think you are, but maybe you're right. But are we really going to blame the people again? Really going to treat the people? Because I'm sure the argument was the same. I'm sure John Woods, when he crafted the deceptive Issue 3, and he wanted to increase the term limits to 16, that can actually be a possible of 22 years, by the way, if you hit it right. I'm sure John Woods thought, you know what? The people just don't know that 12 years isn't long enough to get a hold of the bureaucracy. They just don't know, so we need to deceive them. And now the people just don't know that 10 years isn't long enough. The common thread here is that the people just don't know. I know it's not popular, and I know legislating is not necessarily easy to do. But it's not rocket science, and I mean that literally. Legislating is not some skill that is an elite endeavor that makes you somehow more valuable in the marketplace, like being a rocket scientist or being a surgeon or being an engineer. It's not, because the whole thing attracts people from all walks of life. That's the whole point. And so if we have a system where we have to have for professional politicians in order to operate, well, that just shows you right there that we need even more reform. I think people got to go down there with their elbows out. They got to make a difference, and we don't need to be afraid of messy government. By the way, we don't need to be afraid of a messy public legislative process. Right now, what we have are backroom deals and predetermined outcomes, and the mere formality of a legislature meeting. And you know what? If it's just going to be a formality, I don't care if you serve 16 years or 10. Why not 10? Now, also, this is my other contention. As I thought about this over the weekend, and I thought about what everybody's saying, I believe that shorter terms will likely keep taxes lower. Why do I believe that? Well, I think the amount of time you stay down there, the smaller amount of time you stay down there, the less time you have to listen to excuses and break your promises and vote to raise taxes. So, those are my arguments. Again, you can make reasoned arguments, and I respect those on the other side that make reasoned arguments against term limits. I don't reject or refuse to work with them on other issues just because we disagree on this one issue. But I think people should take a step back and look at the optics of what's going on and remember that the people of Arkansas were lied to. That's what got us to this point. And they were lied to by their own government in a sanctioned piece of legislation that went through 2 committees and 2 houses. This was supposed to be the people's representatives, and the representatives colluded to deceive them. That fact cannot be lost here. And so the people are trying to put it back, trying to restore faith in the government. And if you'd have taken the people's will from 1994 more seriously, we wouldn't be in this spot where we are right now. You reap what you sow. We've got to go to break. Back in a moment.